9 out of 9. For the first time, Mexico finishes perfect in the group stage. Was this Mexico's best game in the World Cup so far? Coming into this game, Mexico had a lot of questions. They were good questions because they did such a good job in the first two games that a lot of questions came up. Is Ochoa gonna play? Because Mexico won those first two games, everything was pretty much defined for Mexico. They secured the first place. He gave a few players rest. Memote was a surprise. I don't think he was gonna play in this World Cup. I thought that Santi Jimenez and La Hormiga were above him, but I guess not. A second player that was a surprise in this World Cup was Luis Romo. I never would have thought that Luis Romo would have played two games in the World Cup because he didn't have a lot of playing time coming into the World Cup with Mexico. So it is surprising that he's already played two games. Most likely he will play a third game too. Now let's get into the game. The game started off really physical as expected. In the first 15 minutes, there's a lot of fouls from both teams. Mexico started off shaky, they started off slow, and Czechia started off with a few good shots at goal. Czechia played balance in the first half. They pressured high sometimes, and then sometimes they waited, and Mexico was just waiting for them. When Mexico decided to attack is when they started to score the goals. In my opinion, Mexico played way too respectful. They should have tried to attack much earlier in the game. The first clear chance that Mexico had was a chilena by Israel Reyes. I think it was minute 38 of the first half. Before that, Mexico didn't really have a clear chance, or they didn't really create a lot of opportunities. Before that, the only chance they had was when Memote and Luis Romo almost scored, but they didn't know what to do with the ball. They didn't know how to counterattack, so neither of them shot. Overall, in the first half, Mexico started slow, but as the game went on, they started strong and they started to attack more, and you saw it at the end of the first half. They had a few chances, a few shots. Berto Mora was really quiet for the first half. He had like one or two balls, but that's it. It was kind of funny because when I was watching the game, it was like, I think it was like the 20th minute, and I was like, oh, Gilberto Mora is playing because he hadn't touched a ball until that minute. The second half started and there's no subs, which I wasn't surprised because if I remember, I don't think El Vasco Aguirre has subbed anybody in at halftime in this World Cup. Right in the beginning of the first half, right in the beginning of the second half, Mora and Quiñones started to be more active. They had their first chances right in the beginning in the first 5 minutes. Just like South Africa, I think in the second half they just got tired. I think the altitude was too much and Mexico was putting a lot of pressure on them. In Mexico's first goal, it showed that Czechia was tired. How Mateo Chavez was able to sprint and beat the Czechian defenders. And then he was by himself against the goalie and he defined it beautifully. This game was similar to the other two games. Mexico didn't play their best football, but they were very efficient. A few minutes later, then Quiñones scored the second one, and at that point, I knew the game was over. Watching the game made me think, is Julian Quiñones probably one of the best naturalized players to play for Mexico in the last decade? Because I don't think of another player that has scored two goals in a World Cup for Mexico as a naturalized player. If you like my content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Now let's get back to the video. After the second goal, even Aguirre knew that the game was over. That's when he started to make all the subs and bring in the players to rest. A few questions that I have for Vasco Aguirre is, why did La Hormiga not play? He obviously thinks that Raul Jimenez is the starter, then El Memote, then Santi, and then La Hormiga Gonzalez. La Hormiga Gonzalez deserves more playing time in this World Cup. I don't think El Vasco Aguirre did bad by playing Memo Ochoa. I think it would have been bad if he would have put him to start. And I think that would have been a mistake because it would have showed everyone that he wasn't taking the game seriously. But I'm okay with him putting in Ochoa after the game is 2-0, the game is defined. And I think it was a positive thing as long as he spoke to Talarangel and the team and letting them know that if there's an opportunity that Ochoa is going to come and play as a tribute to his career. There have only been 3 players that have played in 6 World Cups, or that have been called up to 6 World Cups, and that's Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi, and Guillermo Ochoa. I think that's a great accomplishment we should be really proud of. Let's go back to the question, was this Mexico's best game in the World Cup so far? I think yes. Mexico started off slow, but as the game went on, they started to get stronger. And I think Mexico came out and respected Czechia a little bit too much. I think that they would have came out and they would have tried to attack since the first half. I think it would have been an easier game for them. They made the game harder for themselves. I think this was Mexico's most complete game out of the three. I also think that if Mexico wants to pass into the next round, they're going to have to improve in a lot of things. It's too early to talk about who they might get in the next round. At this moment, it's Scotland, but a lot of things could change from now until the rest of the games are played. But I think Scotland will be a really hard opponent. If Mexico wants to win this World Cup, they're going to have to improve a lot. Thank you for watching. Until next time.